Bismillah. Greetings to our viewers, whoever, wherever, and whenever you may be. This is Tara O'Grady speaking to you from Dublin in Ireland. I'm a human rights practitioner and I'm honoured to moderate today's Beyond COVID-19 webinar for No Peace Without Justice. Our thanks to them for initiating and hosting this online event and the series of talks that make up the archives of hashtag Beyond COVID-19 as a means of continuing to raise our voices in solidarity with each other and to express our support for our colleagues who continue to experience human rights aberrations globally despite the coronavirus lockdown. I send my salutations also to Emma Bonino, Marco Perduca, Nicola Bigatalamanca, and the teams in Brussels and Rome, without whom this forum would not be possible, and I add my respect to the memory of Marco Pinella, whom we still miss. Requiescat simpatia, Marco. Without delay, I will introduce our esteemed contributors. Mrs. Ebtisam Alsaegh, who was awarded by Frontline Defenders at their latest summit for her expansive work and unwavering commitment. She will join us from Bahrain, where she bravely continues to lead the human rights movement at much personal risk and sacrifice. Ex-parliamentarian Ali Alaswad, who gave up his seat in boycott of Bahrain's sham elections and whose oppositionist political party, Al-Wafaq, was banned by the regime after decades of service, with the party leader, Sheikh Salman, jailed these last 4 years on malicious fabricated charges. And Sayyid Yousif Almuhafdah, who has tirelessly been committed to defending the rights of his people, both inside the island and now while in exile. Welcome to all of you. Mindful that our audience is not limited to politicians, human rights defenders, or those with a vested interest in Bahrain, it may be useful to make a short introduction to the broader story and for my colleagues to elaborate on various and further themes for discussion. So, today our focus shifts to Bahrain, that tiny and once beautiful island precariously positioned in the Gulf of Hormuz, where both the United States and the United Kingdom have military bases, from where they police the traffic of oil and maintain strong relations with the royal Al Khalifa family, who are in practice the autocratic regime. Cousins of Ibn al-Saud, it is not any secret thing that their ancestors arrived in Bahrain as pirates from Najd in 1783, and that they have held fast to tradition by plundering the resources of the country through privatization and international racketeering. They have engaged in a multi-million-dollar whitewash of their image through public relations companies like Bell Pottinger and Corvus. They employ fleets of internet trolls to influence social media, even going so far as to send teams of government agents to shadow human rights advocates to Geneva and into the very chambers of the United Nations, where they have threatened and intimidated them, only to arrest them on their return to the island for their legitimate human rights work, accusing them of tarnishing the reputation of the kingdom. Thousands of indigenous Bahraini live in exile, making pockets of communities in the UK, USA, Canada, and Europe, while thousands more have been arrested, viciously tortured, and remain locked in overcrowded prisons in dire conditions, regardless of the global pandemic. I would like to hand it over to Ali, or rather Sayyid Yousif. Sayyid Yousif Almuhafdah, if you would like to elaborate on the situation at the moment in the prisons in Bahrain and the work that is being done with the families of the prisoners.
Yes, you can hear me, right?
I can, Sayyid Yousif, go ahead.
Yes, so I mean, so one of the most issues that we have in the present that we receive in the reports from the families, which is lack of the lack of the right of medics in Bahrain, and the prisoner, they don't have this right, and so many were prevented from getting the right to treatment in Bahrain. So this is one of the main issue. It has been used. We believe that the preventing people from medics, it's have been used as a tool of punishment and suppression. So this is we have been seeing ongoing, and also Ebtisam Alsaegh from the ground, she can speak more about this ongoing and situation in Bahrain. So yes, so
Can you just speak quickly, if you don't mind, Said Yousuf, about how this lack of respect for medics and the rights of medical neutrality, how that actually happened in Bahrain? If I can bring you back to 2011 maybe, and the medics and the issue that happened then, can you speak about that a little to give us a bit of the history of the mentality of the regime towards medicine?
yes, I mean, so as you said, this prevention of from preventing the detainees from the right of medics also give us back to the 2011. I mean, it has been the same. So imagine that many doctors in Bahrain in 2011 were arrested, tortured, sentenced to many years just for treating the protester. So treating the protester, which where the government considered them as enemies, so treating them has become kind of a crime in Bahrain, and all of those who were of the doctor who treated this protester were sentenced, sacked from their works, and many of them until now, some of them went to exile, and some of them they were sacked from working. I mean, from their job in the government hospital, which is Salmania Hospital, the main hospital in Bahrain. Yes, I mean, so the government consider anybody who express his right to protest against the government, to speak about his right, as an enemy. So either if he were treated in the main hospital, or if he is in jail, for them he don't have this right, all of his right. He don't have any right.
So they forced the medics to it is as if it became almost a sectarianism of medicine in those days.
Yes, and the funny thing, I mean, that some of the doctors were charged of, you know, in the court, that they with sectarian accusation, like they accuse them, they are not treating everybody, they are only treating the protester, or they are only treating the Shia citizen, not the Sunni citizen, for example, which is all fakes. They are very professional medics. We have brave medics, and we have been seeing them now in the pandemic. Now we have been seeing them in the front line, and they have been doing really a great job. And so from 2011 and before that and until today, the medics are, I mean, they are doing a very brave job.
So while men released this last year, but have they been able to return to their jobs? Were they able to return? Did they get their medical licenses back? I'm just interested to know what.
I didn't hear it because the line was not clear. I didn't hear the question.
The bottom line, basically, over 9 years. The medics who are still in Bahrain, the ones who now finally they've all been released, the ones that are still in the country, have they been able to resume their positions, and has everything gone back to normal for them? Did they get their licenses back so that they can be medical practitioners again? Were there penalties that have lasted for them?
Yeah, I mean, so what happened? I mean, yes, all of them were released right now. I mean, from the group of medics who were arrested in 2011, they were released. But the main issue that most of them, they didn't get back to their job because they were prevented from going back to their job, and so many of them went outside of Bahrain to work outside of Bahrain, and some of them, they went to open their new business, or not working in the government because they were working in a government hospital. So some of them, they have opened their private clinics, and some of them even went to another sector, not even medic section. So they even went to a different major or a different professional. So this is what happened.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the current circumstances with regards to medical protocols in the prisons at all?
Yes, so I mean, in Jau prison mainly there is a clinic, but with very limited, I mean, number of nurses or doctors working in this clinic. And if we compare it to the number of prisoners, there are more than 2,000 and 500 prisoners of conscience. I mean, and prisoners in general. More than 2,500 prisoners in Jau prison, for example, which is overloaded and overloaded prison, because this prison is set to around 1,500, not more than that. So imagine of this huge number. So first of all, this is the first point, that doesn't match the number of prisoners. And also the second thing, that many of them, many of prisoners, when they need treatment, after a long time, they send them to this clinic in Jau prison. Not the same time of the problem or of the disease. They have to wait for more than a week and even 2 weeks to go to this medics. And even we have cases that when the medic on the clinic or the doctor recommended that this prisoner, this detainee, has to go out to the main hospital or to have an X-ray or operation, the authorities of Jau prison, they don't allow the detainees to go out, and they try to postpone for unknown reason. There is no reason for this delay. So these circumstances lead to many problems, like we have been seeing in the last 2 years. Many people, many detainees died in Jau prison in the lack of medics. So this is one of the problems that we are facing, that preventing detainees from medics lead to that people losing their life, basically.
It's a very high price to pay to stand in opposition to that regime. Can you tell me, has the government made a legitimate COVID-19 task force or coronavirus task force? Ali, do you know?
I don't know anything about this task force internally, but what we have seen from Bahraini governments, they announced like a month and a half ago, they said we have more space, so our capacity can take more prisoners. This is their mentality.
That's stunning.
Yeah, instead of saying like the isolation things or releasing some political prisoners, at least to free the jail, to free the space. Like too many countries, they have taken these steps.
Yeah.
Bahrain governments, Colonel Tariq Al-Hassan, I think he announced this. He said, yeah, we can have more space for political prisoners, not to release the political prisoners. But what we heard now, there is a plan to release some political prisoners, but we are not really sure about this. The internal situation, I'm not really following internal like day to day, but I wish like Ebtisam can join us here today to discuss more, because she is really like, she's doing a great job with the families. She knew a lot of information about, the prisoners, their situation internally now, whether they are sick in terms of health or in terms of COVID-19 in particular. Like we have seen in some countries, either in Europe or in some Arab countries, they've released political prisoners just to free the jail, and some of them subject to bail, and some of them, they give them other punishment, I would say here, but not obviously they are not political prisoners like in Europe here. I haven't heard anything about this. I'm talking about general political prisoners. Let me speak about what Bahrain government should do, Tara, if you wish.
Right.
Like,
absolutely.
yeah, I think looking forward, this is my idea here. COVID-19 opened the door to the government to release the prisoners, not to keep them in jail for a reason of being an opposition, or for a reason being human rights defenders, or for a reason being a journalist.
It would have been a great opportunity.
Being a medics, or for these reasons, which when we talk about it in Europe, in the Western here, nobody believes, like, because you are journalist, taking photographs, you've been like in jail for 7 years, and now some of them, Said Ali, I think his name, he was already like 7 or 6 years, and now he's serving 10 years in jail because he's a journalist. Looking forward, I think Bahrain government, what they should do 3 things. They should, first of all, they should go to this recommendation where everyone knows what is picky.
Tell us the title of it there.
No, 1725, which is really a good one. 1725B, in general, the Commission recommends to the governments of Bahrain the developments of national reconciliation program, which we haven't seen. No one has seen anything related to this recommendation, which is the national, I would say, reconciliation program that address all these problems like we have in Bahrain. And I think COVID-19 opened a page, opened a new, I would say, it's a new era, it's a new time, it's a new world now. Everybody is talking about this. We shouldn't keep in our mind because of X or Y, Z or whoever else. Being an opposition means he should continue his life in jail, like Nabil Rajab as tweets about Yemen, or Sheikh Salman as he speaks about peaceful demands and against the using the weapons, and then he and all the others also political prisoners like in jail here. I think there is a good opportunity, an open door now to the government to address these things and to discuss them in a global or wider view.
Yeah.
Reconciliation. The program should go to this step to implement what was written and approved and accepted by Bahraini King here. And we need to see this committee with all respects of what happened before. We need to see this committee addressing all of these problems and struggles, going back to the constitutional issues, going back to the respects of human rights, what is the recommendation by, I would say here, Human Rights Council, Geneva recommendation, and everything else. We need to see new Bahrain. This is what we need to see. As a politician, I would like to see everyone else engaged in the process of the decision making in Bahrain. I don't want to see only part of the family or part of group, opposition or family, taking all the country with them on board because of one single thought decision. This is what we want to see. So, and what we want to see also is the international community, and I think there is a good role what has been played before by the international community. It's not enough because it's unfinished job, because Bahrain government is not really implementing even their promises to the international community. They say something, and when they leave from the next door, they laugh and they said, "We are telling them this, but then we are not gonna do." And sometimes also the wrong people. The international community speaks to the wrong people about, bigger things like reconciliation. No, they have to go to the main parties, which is the decision-making people in Bahrain, and probably like to push more to implement even what Secretary General of United Nations speaks about these days, which is reconciliation, which is releasing the prisoners from jail as the opposition, which is giving more space to the probably like citizens to implement what they believe on, what they're thinking about. It's not only about the family to decide about our future only without talking to us or without going to the parliament. Like I would say here, the taxation issue, it's been it's getting like bigger and bigger now. People in Bahrain paying 5%. They will see very soon, like Saudi Arabia paying 15% in June, because there is no options. Why? People asking why? Because Bahraini government's been controlling the oil for decades now. Right. So all the wealth, all the money goes to level of ruling family. Number one, number two, number three. Who else? So you can name them. But here, I want to see people participating in the decision, whether human rights decision, politics, economy, social, education, health.
Have you been able to identify any forums or agencies or organizations or characters who could be useful to help host a forum like that, other than, I guess, what has failed so far?
The things like Bahraini authority always close doors to those organizations. Right. We've been targeted or approached by too many for the past 9 years. Mm-hmm. Everyone comes to the opposition, see opposition, they have open-minded, they still want to discuss, like I would say here, always the white paper in our hand, let's address things here, what we have. Though we have Manama documents, we have Picky recommendation, we have Geneva. I cannot compromise on this. It's not my business. Mm-hmm. It's not my business to compromise on the human rights issues, because this is the basic rights and this is the people. But I still, as a politicians, we still can discuss, we still can talk about the demands here. The demands is not our demands. If you allow me, Tara, here to speak about this, it's not opposition demands. It's the Bahraini demands. It's the basic demands for them to be part of the system, to be part of the decision. You cannot decide about prisoners today if the whole world facing this pandemic and you just decide about them to continue in jail. It's not your decision as a commander or as a police officer or as a minister also of interior minister or whatsoever.
So Yousif, do you have anything to add on that? On the international aspect of mobilizing for talks and resolutions?
Yes, I mean, I would say that, as you already, my colleague Alaswad mentioned, that the most important recommendation of BICI were not implemented, and this is one of the main problems that the crisis is still ongoing. If they could have been solving the problem or implementing the recommendation a few years ago, we have been better today, in a better situation today. So there are a lot of recommendations from different bodies, from the European Parliament, many resolutions, and also from the Human Rights Council in Geneva, and many individual MPs from different countries around the world, asking the government of Bahrain of these basic and fundamental rights, and to go to the reconciliation and also to implement all of these recommendations, including release all of the prisoner of conscience and accountability of those who are responsible of extrajudicial killing and torture and enforced disappearance, and to basically to guarantee their right and to respect the international convention and all of the obligation. But what we have been seeing on the ground, that situation is going worse, and I mean, before.
Sorry, Tara, can you hear me? Sorry, yes, everybody is here complaining about they don't hear what Yousif is saying. The audio is not going out. They can see him, but they cannot hear him. Like, that's what I've seen like here. So maybe the technicians or the IT people, they can fix it.
So Yousif, maybe can you check? Yes, your participation is muted. You need to.
No,
yeah, that's.
No, I just muted when I'm not talking, but yeah. So You know, when I was talking, it was unmute. So
They are writing here on the Instagram, audio is not working, as if poor connection. The audio is not working. So I was reading this, doing that. So maybe somebody can fix it.
but all of you can hear me right now?
Yeah, we can
I
hear
can hear you.
because we are in a different, we are in a meeting room. So this is
In the internal network.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe they have to fix it. Until then, we need to get some response from the technician of the IT. Maybe
So, or rather, Ali, as we can hear your voice clearly, can you perhaps tell me how are Sheikh Ali Salman and Abdullah AlKhawaja? What is the communique that you're receiving from the families? It's a really tense, difficult, dangerous time for everyone, and I'm sure their families are suffering exponentially more than others with their loved ones away like this.
Oh, well, I agree with you, Tara. Now, one of the measures that the Bahraini government's taken for the coronavirus, they don't allow now the visitors, the family, to visit the prisoners, and they allowed some of them to speak to them. I don't know, through the closed circle media as well, but and they allowed them to make a phone call, but not to have visitors to jail.
Yeah.
So the amount of information you received if you don't see a prisoner is this much, while the correct or the actual picture is this much. So you don't know exactly what is happening there.
Yeah.
And
so everybody's basically been disappeared effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
Now.
Because if you go into details, you don't know whether some police officers they got infected by COVID-19, for example, and there is risk on the prisoners, and nobody knew about this. Prisoners maybe not allowed to speak about it. From time to time, we hear like some rumors that some police officers got infected and they are, positive tested. So why they are still there?
That's really very alarming. That there's no way of no protection, and there's no way of the prisoners escaping from COVID-19.
Exactly.
They're really trapped.
There was I would say here like a call from the Bahraini, and it was really, if you follow that Tara, you'll see like a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Bahraini saying like release political prisoners, and Bahraini were demanding this because of pandemic, because of coronavirus issue. So if you are not communicating directly face to face with the prisoners until you communicate with them, you don't know exactly what is their situation, because the amount of information, as just said, either they cut the line if they speak. I haven't heard anything about coronavirus spread inside jail, but what I'm saying this is the correct time. This is the perfect time for Bahraini governments also to get rid of that problem, that issues, that conflicts, and to release the political prisoners. The mindset of the government is not. It's not this, unfortunately. They still
Why are they so afraid?
Yeah.
What is it that they're so afraid of? With the Bahraini people, against the Bahraini people themselves, what are the regime most afraid of?
I always think about this, and I still think like Bahraini governments make money from the prisoners because they're getting more support from the GCC country. Like their allegations, we are facing terrorists. And this is the problem of, some of the other regimes. Supporting Bahrain because they are facing terrorists, because they are protecting Bahrain from external forces, Iran, which is repeatable, every time they repeat the same thing. So I think there was no reason, because the cost of keeping the prisoners in jail is way higher or bigger than the cost of releasing them.
Of course.
And if Bahraini governments also think the demands of Bahraini will go away because there are 2,000 prisoners or 3,000, this is also, they're making another mistakes. This demand
certainly that I will say from my own position, 1783 to 1780s is when they arrived, and to think that they have some very broken ideology that if they continue to keep people in prison and to subjugate the people, that it will make them exhausted and that they'll give up. And in our own experience in Ireland, which I will never tire of saying, that we were under occupation for 800 years. And here I am in my green shirts today. It doesn't stop people. This subjugation infuses people. And I don't understand how the tyrants haven't gotten that yet. They don't get it yet.
I think they have to read the history. 1920s also can give this history back. 1960s, 1980s, 1990s, which is not too far from here. But what I want to talk about today is that this mentality will not move Bahrain forward.
Right.
We need a new team to lead the country in a way to understand what is the demand of Bahraini, what is the demand of the new generation, youth, young, you know, in terms of social economy.
They need to catch up.
You need to catch up. Yeah, you can't lead the country with the old fashioned.
Yeah.
When you open the Bahraini TV and you see Bahraini news, the presenter only speaks on behalf of the ministers. You don't hear the ministers. You don't listen to what the minister is saying.
Yeah.
When you say like you have a parliament, but the ministers is not accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Not the prime minister. Prime minister is something from the back now. The prime minister.
41 years.
Yeah. Now it's no Tara 1971. So we're talking about half a century now, 50 years almost. So when you go to the parliament, you don't see a minister question. That's not how we knew Bahrain. That's not how we want to see a Bahrain after coronavirus, when it's go away. Because I'm expecting a lot of changes in the formalities, in the legislation, I would say here in these countries.
Yeah.
With all respects to the challenges, the oil prices go down and the demand's up. You have to think in somewhere in the middle, like you bring these two challenges together.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you face challenges of oil prices while you demand 87 or 85% on oil in Bahrain, and you still have challenges of people and you don't employ them, you bring people from outside whom they commit some other crimes, like what we have seen in the social media these days. Some Asian people, they committed crimes, in their countries and wanted in Bahrain. This is what the Bahraini Interior Ministry announced also 2 days ago. Political naturalization. This is not new Bahrain. This is not how we want to see a new Bahrain. We want to see the Bahraini. We want to see when you talk about Bahrain team, yes, we are so proud of the Bahraini whom they are working in the health sectors. We are so proud on the Bahraini whom they are volunteering to help for coronavirus, pandemic in Bahrain. We are so proud when we see the Bahraini fighting this, pandemic. Yes, this is how the Bahraini.
That's great to hear that.
Yeah, this is how the Bahraini.
You've got a country to be proud of. You have a people to be proud of.
Exactly, Tara. Like, I don't think this mentality will last for a couple of years, because if you still want to put Bahraini in jail because of their political thoughts, or if you still, like what we read 2 weeks ago and a week ago about the latest journalist report, the freedom of speech in Bahrain is decreasing, and the freedom of religion is also decreasing. And I wish Bahraini will not go back to
the dark ages.
Exactly, Tara. Thank you very much. And also, we need to be careful, because these authorities, they might use coronavirus issue of this pandemic now to decrease the space of freedom.
Yes.
Religious, probably speech. Okay, we respect what is the regulation now. People, they don't go, they don't gather, social distancing. It's fine. But we're still having this Ramadan. Everybody respect Ramadan. The Hajj will come, and then Muharram. And I believe the Bahraini authority is thinking about these days, which is Muharram probably.
Yeah.
We need to be careful. If you open up Bahrain now, and this is the decision, they will open up Bahrain stages like every other country. Mm-hmm. They should think also about the freedom, which is freedom of religions, which is coming Muharram and coming Hajj and other special occasions, I would say here. Tara.
But it appears that they use these events, that they use these very significant times during the calendar, and it's almost as if they're crafting ideas of how to better harvest more youth from the street, or to incite violence during these times that are traditionally peaceful times. They seem to choose those moments.
They have used this
For example,
moment.
if I can just
To
say,
be honest, you
it
cannot.
was at Christmas and New Year's for us in my part of the world. It was Christmas and New Year's, and people tried to take a little break around that time. But that was when they took Sheikh Salman, and they kind of eradicate the voices at times when they think we're going to be looking elsewhere and that our focus will be shifted.
Yes, I like this idea, Tara, and I also want to add on that. The space already for freedom is this much is shrinking. So
Right.
with this pandemic, Bahrain might use this to shrink it more. I would say here, as an example, not too many things, they were banning speakers for Quran, where everybody know what is Holy Ramadan, and they're still allowing gathering for Asian workers to go to have iftar in the main streets.
That's very sad.
And that's
It's very sad to do that.
will spread the coronavirus, not the speakers will spread coronavirus. I don't think
Of course.
you haven't heard about this, you know. So this is just an example.
Oh, that's disgraceful.
And this mentality could lead to more conflicts and more clashes between, the population and the governments. Yes, because if you come and if you attack me directly, I want to defend myself.
Yeah.
I want to defend myself.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think this is what I suggest here. I suggest Bahrain should listen to international community first to release the political prisoners. They should go and to read what United Nations also every day announce and every day publish about this. Reconciliation, dialogue. So this is how they should listen to this. Not to go back to the old ages and to go back to the prison and say we have more space to the prisoners. We can keep more prisoners. You cannot do social distancing in a prison.
No.
You cannot. So basically, you want to kill these people in a way like, oh, we are not responsible. There is a responsibility. And this pandemic is not going to last for a month now. We hear about the vaccines is not yet ready, about the treatment is not yet efficient. And today we've seen like Bahrain in number 11 in terms of infection all around the world because of in terms of percentage of population. Bahrain, we are number 11. So
that's amazing. How on earth?
So we need to be careful about political prisoners because we cannot control the virus. No one can control the virus, and no one can control it in jail. On the way that they maintain the prisoners, we all have seen how jail prison looks like. It is disaster internally. It is really not acceptable internationally. It is indeed a non-hygienic and it is indeed non-healthy atmosphere.
I imagine the Red Cross will be interested in visiting again once the lockdown lifts a little.
Well, we have contacted maybe like others also, maybe NGOs, maybe it would be a good idea to contact Red Cross, in terms of...
And Medicine Sans Frontier again.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And also I think Red Cross always, they know, I know they have their own protocol and they have their own way to investigate, but still, maybe this is a good opportunity also. We call Red Cross, we call Amnesty, we call Human Rights Watch, we call Human Rights Watch, everyone, to raise this issue internationally, not only local.
Frankly, Ali, it sounds like the Bahraini regime need a very good dose of common sense.
Well, that's what I said. You need to learn from the past. You need to learn from the history. If this 100 years is not enough, from 1920s until 2020, then we will be in trouble. In the future, we might not see settlement. We might not see, the reconciliation like what we want to see. Even the Bahraini authority, they should think about this twice. You cannot silence people if you put them in jail or if you kill them even. We have a lot of people being killed and they paid their, lives as a price to get the freedom.
So, Yousif, if we can go back to you for a moment and hear your thoughts on this issue of potential reconciliation, because your microphone wasn't working. Would you like to go home to Bahrain one day, Sayyid Yousif?
I mean, yes. I mean, first of all, yes. I mean, as already my colleague said that this pandemic is a great opportunity to release the prisoner of conscience and go on reconciliation, and this is also the calls from United Nations and many international organizations, because these prisoners are overcrowded, and we're talking about more than 4,000 prisoners, or detainees in the prison, and this is overcrowded. So imagine of this coronavirus outbreak or spread in the prison, it will be a disaster, and it will be a huge problem, and many people could be killed, especially talking about many people having disease, many old ordinary people, so they can't control it. So I think this is a great opportunity to release them, and also we use this platform to repeat the call on the government of Bahrain to release them, instead of this mentality or old-fashioned mentality that they are using right now. Because unfortunately we have been seeing the government of Bahrain, they are taking advantage of any problem, and we are afraid that they are going to take advantage of this pandemic. Like one example is, or there are many examples of how the government of Bahrain taking advantage of any problem or regional problem or crisis or in the region. Like, for example, they have been using the political problem between Bahrain and Qatar, or the boycott to Qatar, to sentence Sheikh Ali Salman. He was sentenced to 5 years, and then when there was a problem between Bahrain and Qatar, so okay, they charged Sheikh Ali Salman with the new charges related to Qatar, and then he was sentenced to life. And also, when there is a problem between Bahrain and Iran, or there is a tension between Bahrain or Saudi Arabia with Iran, also we see the government, they are taking advantage or benefit from this problem to get more, and there will be more attack and more oppression on the Bahraini government. So we have been seeing the government using this problem or get benefit or get advantage of this problem. And also, I share also the concern that Alaswad already raised right now, that we are afraid that the government of Bahrain will use this pandemic for a more restriction on freedom. There is in general not freedom, but at least this little bit of freedom, and also especially related to freedom of religion. So we are afraid that they will use this pandemic to get more restrictions, especially that we are having the same mentality of that. The mentality of the government, how they are ruling the country since more than 40 years, with the same mentality, arresting anybody who is talking about human rights, who is fighting about his basic and fundamental rights. And and this situation is getting worse. We are seeing more people sentenced to death. Many people were executed in the last 2 years. 7 protesters were executed in Bahrain, and also hundreds of Bahraini citizen nationality were revoked. Also, our panelists, Al-Aswad nationality were revoked, and many other Bahraini activists living inside Bahrain or outside Bahrain nationality were revoked. So we are
people have been made stateless, right? They've been made stateless, and people have been imprisoned, yes, tortured, and they've been killed for asking for a different way of governance, for seeking their own right to self-determination. Do you think that they are despairing of any hope for change? Do you think that that hope is lost, or is there a possibility of some kind of reconciliation? Do the people, apart from politicians and apart from human rights people asking for some sense, do you think that the people who live on the island has it gone to the point of no return at this stage? Or is there some way of clawing back the attention of the regime, or some kind of negotiation and talks?
Yes, I would say that, as you already said, that away from the human rights groups and politicians, I would say that the Bahraini has always hope. And I mean, since 2011, I was in the Per Square and the Per Roundabout in 2011, and I saw that the people aware that we are facing a repressive government, and we are facing a dictator, and we are facing not only Bahrain, we are facing many other GCC countries, and because all of these countries, like the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia and UAE, they are afraid from democracy. So I think the Bahraini people, they are aware. I mean, they know the challenges that they are facing different government, and also we know the fact of UK and US are backing Bahrain, try to hide the crime and to whitewash these crimes committed by the government. So I would say the Bahraini are aware of their they are aware of the obstacle they are facing and the challenges, and they know that this is not a 1 and 2 years challenge. So they know that this is a long challenge, and I think, as Nabil Rajab said one time, we issued one-way ticket for democracy. So it's not return ticket; it is one way. We don't know how many years, but people like me and all in the ground and even in the prison, despite the despite the problems that they are facing and the challenges and the torture, the that they are subjected to. But if you ask, and every person in jail prison, he would say that we will overcome one day, and we will not give up, and we will not go back, and we will not regret that we called for democracy in 2011. We are proud of this every single moment that we went to the roundabout. So I would say this is on
I really admire and commend your tenacity, all of you. I have to ask, do you think that there's room still for a constitutional monarchy of some sort, co-democracy? I don't mean personally, I mean just the flavor. What's that taste like?
To me or Yousef?
I think
Ali,
to you.
yourself.
Well, I always believe like this is what we are demanding for, and I always believe this is the way exit from this crisis in Bahrain, even though it takes a decade. But we still need to have, as we raise this in Al-Wifaq and other political societies, like our demand is peaceful, and we need constitutional monarchy. We need power. It's kind of power sharing and engagement into authoritarian. It's not like full authorities to one family or one regime. No, what we are demanding is the full engagement of the Bahraini. So this is, and there is no way to go through this without implementing the constitutional monarchy. And we believe today and in the future, near future, there is no other system could last or sustain in the Gulf apart from constitutional monarchy. Even though if you see other system now working, you see it's working temporarily. It is working because these countries, they have money. If Emirates, Abu Dhabi doesn't have enough money to spread to their national, to their people, you would see the same thing. If Kuwaiti also, they have not enough money, where we see like a lot of demands now and voice raises also in Kuwait about constitutional monarchy. So today, sooner or later, this is the way exit. If these family wants to stay in this area to peacefully, they have to give the basic rights to the people. They have to give the freedom. They have to accept the differences. They have to accept this is my way of thinking and this is your way of thinking.
It sounds like tribalism.
Yeah, and in the end, my thinking or your thinking will not go forward without a people decision. So this is how it goes to the parliament. Then the decision the final decision will go to the parliament. We want in the Al-Wafa, we want people to decide about their future.
Can I just interrupt you for a second, Ali, because I can see
Ebtisam is here now.
Yeah. Hello, how are you? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a problem in my laptop, but in telephone it's okay. How are you? How are you, everyone?
Ebtisam, it's so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
really
you, Tara.
delighted to see you looking so well.
Thank
Alhamdulillah.
you. Alhamdulillah.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome
if
to you,
I can
to
ask
everyone.
you, Ebtisam, we were trying to talk around you a little bit, and I just wanted to ask, but if you could recap on for us the situation for the prisoners at the moment in the prison, with their families and with how things are going with the lockdown for the prisoners and their families. What kind of things they're suffering that we don't know about?
Yeah, I think everybody, they are wary because, the Bahrain is number 4 for the virus now. So many people, they get the virus. And also we think it's very easy to become for the present because they cannot supporting the people inside. And also some of them, they are sick, like the Sickler disease patient there, and if they get the
Sickle
virus
cell anemia.
direct, they will die. They cannot also support themselves because nothing have to support them. So the family and also the present, and also we worry about why they are not received, all the people. And we think today, Eid al-Mubarak today, all the people and the family, they call me from the morning, they thinking they can receive or freedom our children, but still nobody. And we think they are very afraid what they happen. And also some situation in the jail, like the coronas get some people inside. The police station, the policeman, also the people there, and the maintenance people, the food service. So they think maybe in any time they will get the coronavirus. Now we don't have the Panadol inside the jail. Sometimes they cannot get anything because also the medicine sometimes not available. So how they can control these people all in the same place, and they can save life for these people? Yeah, the family is very.
That's really incredible that there's no paracetamol available in the prisons. I know that from 2012, the Department of Defense took responsibility for all of the purchase orders for the medicines that were coming into the island, and that means that the Department of Defense is responsible for the lack of paracetamol in the prisons. So that there's no possibility of having adequate medical care at all. Yeah,
and we have so many people they call, just they need the medicine. Some people, they are already sick. We have also more than 21%. They have disease, Sickler disease,
sickle cell anemia.
Sickler, and
so
we think
can we hope to expect some kind of report coming from Bahrain anytime soon? Do you think?
Yeah. We think, and I think if we are making pressure from outside, maybe they will freedom some people. And we think in this day for Eid and for this moment, it's nice to freedom the people. But especially in the corona, the families, they hope they can receive all the people, but still nothing.
It's a great opportunity for them to release political prisoners right now.
Mara, there was a question, if you allow me. If
yes, Ali, go ahead, please.
You have it on your phone, probably. I think it has been asked and sent to you, but
no, I don't see anything.
Okay, the question was, how is approach of OHCHR on Bahrain now, and are there any concrete initiatives?
Okay, Ali, well, if you would like to go ahead and answer that question, that'd be
excellent. I don't have any information about concrete initiatives, I'm afraid, from OHCHR.
I'm not aware of any recently myself.
Yeah, and maybe Yousef, maybe he can add from Salam, because Salam, they are following these things. But I think what they need to do, it has been, years and years now since we talked to OHCHR about Bahrain, and they are fully aware of this. The new High Commissioner, we haven't heard from her anything about Bahrain in particular. The former High Commissioner and the team, they were working very close to the Bahraini also human rights defenders and organizations. And this is exactly what we need to see now, as we think they still can play a positive role. And this is, they have a mandate and they have priorities. We all understand this. But it doesn't mean like if there is no movement in the streets or there is no protest in the streets, we forget about the political prisoners. Because we have thousands of political prisoners. And we still think there must be a legislation, there must be something higher than probably like the NGOs, which is the UN body.
Okay.
The UN body shouldn't go like business as usual or business normal, like Bahrain office, the United Nations office in Bahrain. They just go and shake hands with the Bahraini authority, giving them, gifts and receiving some gifts from them. This is not their business. This is not what Bahraini people are expecting from United Nations office in Bahrain.
No, it delegitimizes them.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bahrain also get more benefits from that, and they take it as a green light so they can do more.
Exactly.
So this is what they do from time to time.
So they feel the relationship that they have with the OHCHR is bolstered by the US and the UK, and that they can continue to have impunity.
Let me just highlight also on the news which is coming now. There is some 150 prisoners only being released. This is, if this is true, this is the normal number. No, this is not political prisoners. They are not really. Maybe Ebtisam can highlight on this more from inside, because she is really talking or speaking to the families. But usually this number from 150 to 300 every year during Eid, all the GCC country, they release, prisoners.
Like an amnesty.
It could be anything, but not political prisoners or figures or, probably human rights defenders. I would be glad to see if Nabil Rajab released or Sheikh Ali.
These are all people who have a part to play. They've got a really legitimate role to play inside the politics and society of the island.
Yeah, exactly. And what we need to see, like a concrete, if there is concrete initiatives from Bahraini authority or Bahraini government, there is positive step, they will see definitely more positive steps from opposition, from human rights bodies, from international community. So
if they would but just take that first step.
So this is why we said like coronavirus and this pandemic should be an opportunity. It should open a door to the authority in Bahrain. You can say it like it's kind of face saving. You can say it's okay, we want to flip a page, a new page, but we need to make sure this is something I would say here from the internal decision within the authority in Bahrain. It's not something that they want to do it only to please the media or some of high authoritarian in the international community like US or UK or Brussels or United Nations, and say, okay, we have released some political prisoners, but from the other hand, we handicap and we also do more, I would say here, legislation against the freedom. Like they use the parliament to do so. So this is what we want to see. We want to see the bright of Bahrain, the future of Bahrain, in full engagements of everyone. Like the example which I gave, like the example of the team of Bahrain whom they face or whom they fight coronavirus. Like this, you want to see something like that,
It would be historic, absolutely historic, if they could turn this into something positive. It would be monumental for them to do that.
Hopefully.
Well, we can continue to hope. I cannot see Syed Yousif or Ebtisam any longer, I'm afraid. So I think we will, if I could ask you if you have any closing remarks, Ali, please.
I would say something here, like moving forward, it's very important, going forwards towards the reconciliation. You cannot, people will not forget what happened to them 9 years ago. People will not forget what happens to them 100 years ago. That's something usually, you know, Tara, you came from Ireland and you understand what I'm talking about. If you cross the border, you know exactly what happened in Belfast. And we learn from this experience. We've learned from South Africa also. We know exactly, we learn from Bahrain itself, like what happened 50 years ago. But we don't want to see Bahraini authority use this for their benefits. This is what we want to see. We want to see a full...
For everyone's benefit.
Yes.
The whole island's benefit.
The whole island's benefit. And it will be...
I'm really hearing from you all that it's time to encourage the regime. And no more of the... It's not a criticism at all. It's an encouragement, and so that they can be empowered to do something positive and constructive.
Yes, indeed, Tara. That's a good point. That's a really good point. And I want to repeat, this is the best time, and I would say here now to flip the page. This is the best time.
Yeah. Okay, possibly.
No, we still have murders. We still have, prisoners. We still, everything needs to be addressed in the reconciliation. Everything needs to be addressed and to discuss them on the table.
A new type of whitewash completely.
Thank you very much.
So it's all blood under the bridge. Tell me, Ebtisam, is there anything that you would like to add or say here? We're going to close in a couple of minutes. If we can just have some closing remarks or thoughts from you, please.
Yeah, I think still we want fighting to freedom all of them, and also to can get the democracy and the freedom Bahrain. Because all this 9 years is something. It's not nothing to forget it or to open the new paper without cleaning the paper or the memories that we get it. Yeah,
you paid a very heavy price.
Yeah, and also because we need the justice, because if we are not get it, we will not become quiet. Yeah.
Right. And yourself, Syed Yousif.
Yeah, maybe after Yousef. Just 30 seconds.
Go ahead, Syed Yousif.
Yes, I would say that we will not negotiate on our basic and fundamental and basic human rights. So human rights should be guaranteed always. And the government of Bahrain, we repeat that this pandemic is an opportunity to release the prisoner of conscience, to stop the death penalty, to stop the torture, to retain the nationality from those who were arbitrarily revoked by the government, to respect the international commitment and to follow the international convention. And I think this is an opportunity to go to the right direction instead of repeating the same mistake. Instead of repeating every 10 years that we have uprising and revolution, they have to fix all the problem and go further.
If the foundation is built on human rights, as your rights are enshrined, everything can move up from there. Yourself, Ali.
And one word, I asked Sir Nigel Rodley before he passed away a couple of years ago, and I said, what do you think we should have in Bahrain to move forward? And he mentioned to me accountability. And this was one of the recommendations also of Pipi.
Yeah.
Without accountability, everything could be repeated again. And we don't want to see repeated. Exactly. We don't want to see, all the abuses, all the torture, all the human rights issues repeated again. Yes, we want to move forward. We want to go towards the reconciliation. But we want to address all of these things and to discuss through the dialogue. National dialogue also is a demand. So accountability is one of the things. You cannot keep all of these high position, officers in their position and said, yes, we flip the page and we just go forward, we move forward. There is no way. Right. There's no way we move forward.
We can't play happy families.
I mentioned at the beginning, maybe Ebtisam, before she joined us, we need a new team. You cannot lead the country for a bright future, for a better future with the same team that you did for the past 40 or 50 years now.
Everything will change, inshallah. Yeah.
Those things do need to be addressed. Yes, obviously their arrogance and impunity cannot go untested, and it is a very dangerous way to think that they could continue to behave like that. But I think that the will of the community is very strong and good, and as you say yourselves, samud, which is really the word that continues to inspire me. Thank you all so much for your participation today. I'm delighted to have had this opportunity to speak with you all. And on behalf of No Peace Without Justice,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
God bless you all. And in advance, Ramadan Mubarak and Eid Mubarak, please
Eid
God.
Mubarak to everyone.
Eid Mubarak.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. مع السلامة.
Bye.
الحين نخلص ها؟ اوكي.